Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Uh, we currently in the third day of the trading week. Um, yesterday, yesterday, I think the market took a lot of people on a ride. I'll explain why. I saw a lot of things on YouTube about people blowing accounts, etc., etc. And just to touch on key points on why that shouldn't happen if you understand the market, right? So before we get there, just want to kick off right with the dollar. So the dollar did end up kind of pivoting at the point I expected to. What did happen was it gave a fake out, right? And this trapped a lot of people. And now currently it looks like it's forming some sort of pattern, although the pattern is not clear, because if this was to be an inverse head and shoulder, it's very skew, like it's not, doesn't have thing. But look, it is possible that this could be an inverse head and shoulder, right? We'll just have to wait for double shoulder to confirm. This could also be some sort of push to the upside. When I say push to the upside, I mean impulse to the upside. And now this could be a sort of correction that's forming, right? So, but the bullish signs are there. We'll just wait for today, and we'll kind of just see what's happening, right? So let's move to GJ, because that one was very interesting at what happened. If you recall, I spoke about this yesterday, right? I said GJ, potentially it was forming a sort of uptrend, right? When I say uptrend, I mean, like, we had a lower high, higher high, and then we had another higher high, and then we're looking to potentially forming the next lower high, right? I noted that at this area, price might find some sort of support due to previous demand zone, and it started breaking to the upside. So when it started breaking to the upside, I then entered a long position around this area here. I put my stop loss just below, and my target was the next formation of the higher high, right? And I ended up getting stopped out, right? So I then obviously waited and waited, and what I saw was very interesting. Price gave a major fake out to the downside, or hashtag liquidity sweep. When I say that, I mean, look at this. This was the initial area that I got stopped at, right? And look how far it went all the way down, right? It went all the way here. And this could be a potential liquidity sweep, meaning that price could find its way back into the zone, right? Because now currently we are above the previous support zone, right? And if you look at how deep the sweep is, what this means on a chart is that many stop losses were taken out at this area because people probably identified the uptrend. And they made sure that they got all of those stop losses as a liquidity sweep. And it's evident by the way the market went, right? Because if you look at this from straight down to straight up, so what that means is that this whole area right here was sitting with stop losses, right? And they were taken out. And when you get taken out of a stop, when you are when you are buying and your stop loss gets hit, you are forced to sell your position, at which the big players then buy your position right at the area that they want, right? Because for them it's evident to see where most people will place their stops, right? So I got hit out for 1%, but I think a lot of people ended up getting hit out for more. And this play is more like a double play, right? Because when people start seeing something like this, they start to think, okay, now we're in a downtrend, and they sell, right? So they were holding sales, and then the market switched, turned around, probably took out even those sellers stop losses and got them out. So yesterday was a very wild day. I noted a lot of people posting accounts blown, etc, etc, right? So kicking off today, what I can see from this very clear, right? This is an inverse head and shoulder. Inverse head and shoulder is sign of reversal, right? So what we need to wait for, we need to wait for some sort of break of the neckline. We need to wait for some sort of potential proper neckline break. This is not a valid break. We need to wait for some sort of push to the upside, give us some sort of retest or lower time frame correction to continue to the upside and potentially join the original uptrend, right? So we'll wait for that when London session opens. Let's check Euro USD. So Euro USD is kind of forming a potential reversal, right? As we noted with the dollar was gaining a bullish confluence. And if you look at Euro USD, this looks like an inverse head and shoulder. Sorry, a head and shoulder formation. What's always important to note is that in a head and shoulder formation normally signifies a reversal, right? It's one of the patterns. You get double top, double bottoms, reverse wedge, etc. But normally an inverse head and shoulder is one of the key identifiers for change of direction, right? But this is not yet confirmed change of direction because we need to break below the previous support, right? So if we can break below the support and give some sort of lower time frame correction or retest, then we can potentially put an entry just below the correction or retest zone and stop loss just above and wait, right? Let's have a look at gold. So gold, I spoke about this yesterday. I said that gold was just pushing up, but it wasn't really clear, meaning there was no push-up correction, it just pushed right up, right? And a lot of people are now buying gold because they saw gold going up. For me, I would identify that as a trading error, right? And the reason I'm saying it is because if you look, we are potentially in an downtrend, right? We are just waiting for the next lower low to form, right? As we had a swing point at this zone, which was lower than the initial one. So while people might be seeing full of green candles, etc., thinking that it's a good time to buy, I would not be buying at that area, especially since price now respected the previous resistance zone, right? So since it respected the previous resistance zone, one of two things can happen. We can either form an inverse head and shoulder, which then will confirm movement to the upside, right? Or price can just basically shoot down and continue to the downside, which will then retest this previous support zone and then continue to the downside to form the lower low, right? Which is what we've been expecting. And it's known that gold tends to sell quite hard when it sells, so we'll see. But my bias is more gold sells than gold buys, right? Okay, UJ, similar story. Once price reached this pattern, as you can see, we got this larger time frame wedge. Once price reached it, it didn't exactly bounce off, but gave some sort of like a liquidity sweep, right? Or manipulation area or zone. And now you can even see this is forming an inverse head and shoulder, right? And this USD JPY is much more bullish or clearer bias than the other pairs, because this one already has a nice double shoulder, right? And we are above the neckline, so it's very possible that at London Open we could look for a lower time frame correction and potentially have ourselves a nice swing trade for the rest of the week and into next week.